My name's Hannah. I'm a curator of exhibitions and displays at Leighton House and Sanborn House. And we're joined this evening by Rachel Barclay, who's senior curator at the Oriental Museum, and also by artists Maliha Zafanazad, Amir Attamimi, and Roshi Rouzbehani. So thank you again for joining us. Just to give you a little overview of the format for this evening. So to start with, Rachel and myself will just give a little bit of background to the exhibition, and then we'll hand over to our artists who will each talk through their pieces in the exhibition and give a little bit of information about their work. And then we'll have a conversation about their pieces, and Rachel and myself will ask them some questions. And at the end, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask some questions as well. So do think of things as we go along. I'm sure you will. Um, so to start with, just to introduce the exhibition itself. So this in conversation is part of our exhibition, The View from Here, which opened in October and is on till the 1st of March. So if you haven't been already, you still have a little bit of time to go. And the exhibition showcases emerging creative voices from across the Middle East, North Africa diaspora, exploring heritage, memory, and identity through assemblage and collage. Um, and this exhibition is in partnership with the Oriental Museum, and I'll hand over to Rachel to just say a little bit about that and give some background to the collection.
Thanks, Hannah. When I was thinking about this before this evening, actually, this goes right back to when I first arrived at the Oriental Museum, which is nearly 18 years ago, terrifyingly. When I arrived, I was charged with undertaking a redisplay of the permanent galleries at the museum, right through the museum. And in reviewing the collections, it really became apparent that, in common with many museums in the UK, collections sort of stopped before World War One, and the 20th and 21st centuries were pretty much absent from the collections. So we have some pretty major gaps to fill. And as we started working through the redisplay, we found that introducing contemporary art into the galleries really helped audiences to connect with historic material in parts of the collection. So if you're doing a school visit with a group of children and they're coming to look at Japanese art, the likelihood is they've looked at manga or they've watched anime. And so starting with that and collecting that kind of contemporary material then helped us to guide them back through woodblock prints and all the way back to medieval hand scrolls. So we sort of developed ideas in that area and wanted to start collecting more. And then we created a plan to start collecting contemporary works from right across the area that the museum covers, which pretty much goes from sort of North Africa right the way through, in theory, to the end of Asia, but we tip into Australasia as well. So we kind of had two aims in the collecting that we were doing. One was to collect works that connected to the existing collection, so that kind of drew on historic material or had the same sort of similar themes to the historic material. And then the other one is we wanted to start looking at contemporary events and start collecting material that reflected what was going on today. So everything from the Arab Spring through to COVID. It was really my colleague, Jill Ramsey, who unfortunately cannot be with us tonight because she's on an aeroplane. Otherwise, she would definitely have been talking here. He was the one who really took the lead for the collecting for the North African and Middle Eastern material. And we were lucky enough to convince Durham University to fund some of the collecting in that area. So over about 10 years, Jill was able to bring in small groups of material bit by bit. And the other theme that really came through in her collecting as that developed was digital and the importance of the way that artists were using digital methods or even creating entirely digital born works. So that kind of became the other theme. And as the material came together, we realized that it was so fantastic. We didn't just want to incorporate it into the permanent galleries and use it in our teaching. We wanted to create an exhibition. So the original exhibition in Durham, which was called Voices, Contemporary Art and Design from North Africa and the Middle East, ran from September 2023 to May 2024 up in Durham. And we were really delighted when the team from Leighton House expressed an interest in bringing part of that exhibition down to their amazing venue. It has genuinely been a pleasure to work with the team from Leighton House on this. I'm kind of hoping this is the beginning of a longer term partnership. But the other thing that's really inspired me to do, as we've been talking to the artists who are here tonight, is to think about the fact we need to keep collecting. We need to keep collecting new works that reflect current events that are happening. So that's kind of the next aim for me. And I think potentially as we hear what everyone has to say this evening, people will kind of understand why I'm feeling that way. But I'll hand back to you, Hannah, to tell everyone how we're going to go from here. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And yeah, just to echo that, it's been fantastic working with you when I came up to see the exhibition, all the way back last year, or either the year before even. I was really taken with it, and it felt like such a natural fit for Leighton House. So I'll now share some images of the works and invite the artists to just give an introduction to their pieces in the exhibition. So if you just bear with me while I share my screen. There we go. I'll hand over to you, Maliha.
Hi everyone, my name is Maliha. I'm from Iran. I'm an artist and full-time art teacher in secondary school. My practice is mainly about using old photographs and photographs in general as a main resources to create an artwork. And I usually use image transfer and collage as main medium to create an artwork. And the concept usually in my work deals with immigration, displacement, motherhood, and also kind of feeling of loss. So it's kind of all of the experiences that I've been through, especially after migration to another country, and then I did a second immigration from Ireland to UK. So yeah, mainly all of these concepts can be seen in my artwork. So I can explain about this specific artwork if you want me to do it now.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so this was made actually in this artwork that I made in 2017 was part of a series that I used a kind of photographs that was made by photographer inside Iran. That was a kind of collaboration work. So I asked them if I'm allowed to use their photo in my work. And then I used the image as a main kind of resource. And then I paint over that to create a kind of new story. So specifically this one, this photograph has been photographed by Mortaza Aminurai, who lives in Neyshabur in Iran. The image is showing soldiers that are doing military service. So it was taken from them when they were doing military service in Iran because so it's kind of mandatory that they need to go and do it. So they were showing actually soldiers taking a selfie in a park. So I actually delete all the background from the main image, and I tried to put them in a kind of totally different setting, which was inspired by Persian miniature from Safavid from about 500 years ago, and to try to create a kind of a dream land or something that is quite dreamy. It was kind of the intention behind that was to creating a kind of space for them to be kind of in paradox with the thing that they forced to do actually as a part of their military service. So that was the idea behind that. And so the image was transferred by using gel medium technique, but the background is all painted from the miniature.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to Emma.
Hi everyone, my name is Amar Attamimi. I am a self-taught photographic artist. I began working with photography in Yemen as a way to create a private space for thought and survival at a time when many forms of vulnerability and self-expression weren't safe. And over time, photography has become less about documenting and more about self-expression and questioning. The artwork that you see, I am Human Copy 2, which is shown on the screen, was made in Yemen in 2014. The work uses repetition and language to confront hierarchies of value, asking why the phrase I'm human needs to be stated at all, and why that declaration carries different weight depending on who is speaking and where. And showing this artwork now in London within a historic collection introduces a distance that didn't exist when I created this work. And that distance between then and now, here and there, is something I'm very aware of, and it continues to shape my understanding for the work today.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And finally, we have Roshi.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us today, and thanks to Leighton House for having me. I'm an Iranian digital illustrator. My work is usually in digital, and I'm focused on social issues, especially about women, women's rights, migration, and collective identity. And in this in this artwork that you're seeing, which is titled Free Tehran, it was created in the response to Women Life Freedom Movement of Iran. I'm sure most of you are familiar with, but I'm just going to give you a short context. A few years back, in Iran, it was an uprising happening because a young woman called Mahsa Jina Amini, she was killed while in custody of so-called morality police because of showing some few strands of her hair, and this become like a fuel to everyone in Iran and later around the world anger, and it was a really huge uprising happening in Iran, and it was like many people called it like women-led and a feminist movement that was happening. And so I was inspired by how women are coming together in this movement. And what you can see here is a diverse group of women coming from different background and different like generations. And I was imagining them, wearing different clothes and everything. They are standing on top of Freedom or Azadi Tower. This is the tower. It's not just about the architecture, because it's like one of the main landmarks in Tehran, capital of Iran, and it is called Azadi, which means freedom. So I was imagining these women standing on top of this tower, imagining the bright future they're gonna have. So they are staring at this big bright sun, which is still out of reach, but is somehow you can see the hope that you may get there. And so I was thinking, this image, I was hoping for a really bright future at the time of, what was happening in Iran. And I wanted, just to reflect what I hoped for the future. So, yeah, I think I can maybe, talk about it later when we are going for the Q&A. But for now, yeah, that's Free Tehran.
That's fantastic. Thank you all so much. So I'll stop sharing that. And yeah, we'll move on to the discussion next. So looking through those pieces, most of them were created quite a few years ago now, and coming back to them again and reflecting on them and talking about them as part of this exhibition. I was wondering, has their meaning changed for you at all? How do you kind of feel about them coming back to them?
So for me, actually, the approach will be different this time. The concept will still the same, but because I think that time when I was creating that, I think it was a bit of emotional approach. But if I want to do it again, I will probably use a different language. So I will probably use a kind of less colorful, more fragment, more layering, instead of using a kind of painting of the miniature. I will maybe just collage the original miniature over the board, and I'm even thinking about using another image, not a contemporary one, probably the historical one. So I may pick an image from the war between Iraq and Iran. So I think it would be a more conceptual approach if I want to do it. And now I still want to imagine a better and different land for my people. But I think this time I will do it in a really more conceptual way.
That's interesting. Thank you. Yeah, so your kind of approach to art making has kind of changed. You look back and you would have expressed that in
Yeah.
sort of a different way doing it now.
Yeah, so it would be less colorful this time. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other thoughts on that question?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, go on, no.
Sorry, you sure, Roshi? You can go ahead first. Okay. Thanks. For me, the meaning of the work has changed a lot. I made the work in 2014, and when I made it, it came from within a system where humanity felt conditional, and it was constantly under negotiation. And now I'm looking at it from the outside, living in safety and distance. So for me, it definitely has shifted. And it was from a place of declaration, and now I see it more as a mirror. I feel less that I'm talking from within the frame, and more that I'm standing alongside the viewer, carrying the responsibility of witnessing the artwork. And it's a shift that is a bit uncomfortable, but it's very honest as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, and you mentioned in your introduction this idea of even for other viewers, the meaning is different of the work, kind of seeing it in the context in London. And I think that's probably that same thing applies for several other works in the exhibition. And my colleague Shabnam was the one that came up with the title "The View from Here," and I think she wanted to kind of express something of that in the title. That's really interesting. Thank you. Roshi, did you have some thoughts?
Oh yeah, I think because my work is quite political, and it was happening like it was like Malihe, it was my immediate reaction, kind of emotional reaction to what was going on. But when I'm looking back at it, and especially again, I'm sure most of you are aware of what is happening in Iran now that we are talking. We had like this brutal crackdown again, and people were just again protesting, and this time, again the government was even more brutal, but the resistance was more, out there. So I think if I want to do it again, maybe because my work, I'm focused on women's empowerment, and I want to make them in focus, but maybe I will add one or two men standing beside them. And unfortunately, I'm now, as Maliha, I'm seeing this a bit less hopeful, so I might maybe make the sun a bit smaller, just in further away, just to say that still there is hope, because if we don't have hope, we don't have anything. But I think still the answer is in hope and solidarity. But maybe we just need to be more resistant and endure it in a longer term. So we have to still stand side by side to get to that brighter future. But maybe we just need to be more patient. So I think that's what I'm gonna change about it.
Yeah, I think I definitely felt that when I was working on the exhibition, this feeling that a lot of the work in the exhibition deals with quite challenging things and is quite political, but most of the pieces for me had a real optimistic energy. And you'll have seen I painted the room bright orange and yellow because it felt like the pieces were kind of filled with hope, even if they were dealing with quite challenging subjects. So it's interesting, both of you have said that that kind of feels further away at this moment, and I can completely understand why. So thank you.
Yeah, if I can pick up on that, I think, and what I was saying in my introduction, if we were going to do an exhibition again at the Oriental Museum, or a future exhibition, and include some of your more recent work, I wonder if there's a piece that each of you would particularly want to include if we were doing something new.
I think I will probably participate one of my recent work that is more dealing with women in Iran, and also the history of women, and even the tradition that also deals with women's kind of a pose or even body in old photographs. So I usually try to focus mainly on historical images from Iran back to about 50 years ago, towards even kind of older. So I have added dimension to my work recently during past few years, and I think it would be probably something a bit more layered with dimension, and even a different medium as well. So I usually use wood as my main surface these days, and just wanted to make it even more kind of interactive. And I actually decided to add a kind of another dimension to the work to make it stand out. And also the kind of the picture of it will be more minimal, more abstract, but still more conceptual. So I may participate one of my recent work that is dealing with a kind of wedding ceremony in Iran. That is actually in wedding ceremony we set a table for bride, and that we call it Sofra Aqd. And I'm collecting images from from 70s and 60s in Iran, that showing women posing in that that table, along other elements that we usually set on that table. And it really just concentrate on the pose and female body. That is part of tradition. So I may actually participate one of those work, and most of them are actually painting, not collage, but you can still see layers because I have added dimension, and also you can see layers through the colors as well.
Fascinating. Thank you. There's a lot for me to think about there. I don't know if I have much to comment on it, but it's just really interesting to hear. Yeah, I don't know if Amir or Roshi, you have any thoughts?
Yes, I thought about what could be good to display in the Leighton House. I think I would include a series called The Visit. It's a work that looks at moments of encounter, what happens when people, bodies, and cultures move into spaces that weren't built for them. And the series doesn't focus only on blending and harmony. It's more interested in the tension that it creates, such as hospitality versus intrusion, curiosity versus projection, and how power shapes who is welcome and how they're seen. And I think in that sense, in a way or another, it does resonate with the Leighton House, because it was shaped by collection and historical imagination. So yeah, probably that would be my pick.
Thank you. Roshi.
Oh yeah, so I'm thinking if I want to participate with another political my artwork of mine, I will maybe do something quite similar, just I really want to convey this message of solidarity and, just to stand by it. But again, like was Amber saying, I think if I want to think of the Leighton House as a collection, I recently self-published a book which is called Migrated, Keepsakes, and is a collection of keepsakes that Iranian women brought from them when they wanted to, migrate from Iran. So it's like, a collection of the objects that they have like emotional relationship with them. So maybe I can, just make a big collage of everything that they brought in them, because they have like it's their lived experience, and it has, cultural values as well. So it can be like a portrait of what's happening and what is this emotional connection, and how Iranian women are collecting objects that they have like sentimental values. So I think that would be like maybe in good dialogue with what's happening in Leighton House with the collection.
Fantastic, thank you. That's really interesting. There's a lot for me to think about there, so I'm going to just try to start. But it kind of leads on to another question, which I think you've all already started to pick up on, but maybe you could kind of expand a bit more. That for all three of you, your work has quite strong messages, quite strong perspectives that are coming through, both in the works that have been displayed and what you've just been talking about in terms of your current work. So whether you could sort of say a little bit more about that, and sort of how you're sort of don't know how to put it, but kind of a little bit more about your motivations, I guess, is what I'm saying, and how that's reflected in your work. Yeah.
For me, art is always a way of processing experiences, everything that I have been through, and I cannot tell them in a word. So I will try to transfer them and show them into my artwork, from childhood memories towards immigration, becoming a mom. So all of that I will try to kind of show them in my artwork. So about my practice, so picture is the main thing for me, as I said before, to start with, as a kind of the main resource. And then I will try usually to add a kind of narrative to the picture, and even change the story inside the picture. So it could be, it's usually an old photograph, but sometimes I also use contemporary images from magazines, or from like a photographer, as I did use the one for the exhibition in Leighton House. So that is always the main resource. That is always the main kind of inspiration. And then I will start adding layers and layers to it to just show the meaning to it. And also with using other materials, especially found object, that I really kind of found it quite interesting, because it added new story again to the work, because there is a history behind that object, and then there is a history behind that picture, and when you combine them together, something really kind of magical, in my opinion, happens, and you can give them a new life, a new story in general. So sometimes the image cannot be related at all to the concept I want to show, but with adding different layers, I will try to actually show it through my artwork. But the meaning is usually, as I said, more related to displacement, sometimes feeling of loss, and feeling towards my country. And it's kind of, I think it's all my work's kind of collective memory of what I have been through as a woman who has migrated to another country.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme that is coming through for all three of you, around that idea of displacement, of found objects, of collective memories. Yeah. I don't know if either of you others want to expand on that.
For me, it's similar to Maliha as well. I make work to think through the things I can't resolve verbally. And the motivation comes from moments of friction, frictions between visibility and erasure, belonging and exclusion, also safety and exposure. And also I'm interested in how the inner world meets the outer one, and how imagination can be tested to reality as well. I think all those tensions kind of shape the content and the form of my art, because those questions themselves, they don't resolve cleanly, and I use art to express them, and that's where the motivation comes from.
Thank you. Yeah, I lost it for a minute there, but I'm hoping everybody else did catch everything there, and that was just my connection. Yes, wonderful. That's great. Thank you. Roshi, would you like to?
Yes, sure. Yeah, actually, kind of the same because for me, art is like a visual language. I'm using the things that we can't really say verbally. But I think for me is again from my lived experience and you know living in diaspora and being an Iranian woman that are my big part of my identity. So I want to communicate that. And recently, I'm really into collective identity. Maybe Iranian women or just women. The things that we share. I'm really interested to convey that and just to communicate that. And also in my works that are more political, I want to amplify the voices that otherwise we can maybe not hear them. So for example, the things that are related to in Iran, because I know that many Iranian artists that are living inside Iran, they are dealing with loads of censorships, and they've been present even. They were just it's really quite they don't have like anything in the sense of freedom of speech. So I'm trying just to be their voice and amplify their voice and reflect what is happening inside Iran, and just to try to help this voice to get to others. Maybe I'm trying my best to just to be sometimes just reflect that, and sometimes I'm trying to maybe add some layers to it because I want to just to express my feelings and how I think. But sometimes it's just how I want to show the world in my artwork what's happening in Iran or what's happening politically around women. Yeah.
I know we found when Jill was collecting this material originally that's one of the reasons that digital emerged as a big theme, because the opportunities when it's possible for social media, for to allow people to share things, for people to share art digitally, even if they can't share it physically with people, really came through as a theme for us when we're collecting.
Exactly. I think digital illustration is just really like a quick way, just to get and because some of the works I was creating was like immediate reaction, because I didn't want any voice to get lost. So I just wanted just to shout it as much as possible. And as you said again on social media, it really helps if it's digital work, and then it's more spreadable in a sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all really interesting. One question I've got that just kind of came out of that discussion was around how often you actually make art. Is it something that you kind of do? Because I know this is so different for lots of different artists. Is it something that you kind of make yourself do regularly, or do you wait until there's a particular moment or message that you want to convey? Because all of you have talked about the fact that you use your artwork to express things that you can't say. So does the impulse to create something kind of come from a moment where you have a message that you want to put across?
For me, if I want to go back to a few years ago, it was a very kind of the moment that I was feeling something that I really kind of had to make art to show that. But now it's a bit different. I would try to categorize them in different series. So usually I would try to make it as a project in my mind to just keep it more kind of steady and also constant as well. So we try to put them in a different series and then research. So I think my work is now more research based. So at the moment, as I said, I'm working collecting images from Iranian weddings back to about 30, 40 years ago. And I'm also thinking about starting a project regarding the collection in V&A of Qajar women. So I have started that one as well, but it's still, it's the kind of, I try to just categorize them in a different series. which I found like a bit more kind of speedy for me to doing it in this way instead of creating different artworks that may not be connected to each other. So I feel more kind of I feel that my art is more dealing with research these days instead of emotion. And I'm not sure for how long this is going to stay like this. But yeah, so I would try to keep it in this way at the moment.
That's really interesting. Yeah. No, I can see that it kind of slowly develops as you discover things and build up a collection
Yeah,
of resources, and then you kind of get ideas that come from
yeah.
that. That's a really interesting way of working. Did anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. For me, it's a mix of both. I can plan the series and the framework, but the actual photography or the actual content of the artwork, for me, I still need to be inspired, and I wait for that moment to produce the work. So yeah, I can visualize things logically, but once I really create that work, I feel like yeah, it has to have that kind of conditions where I can create the artwork.
I think you can definitely feel that in your piece. I think for me, definitely it has a really kind of emotional presence. So I can sense that it kind of came out of a sort of moment of inspiration or a moment of particular feeling. Yeah, that makes sense. Roshi?
Yeah, I think mine is mixed as well. I guess some of my works is like, emotional reactions to things that is happening, or the message that I really want to, get out there. But some others are just like, some of them are like long run projects that I have in my mind. And for example, as I was saying before, it came out like in a book, like for a migrated keepsake, because migration is something that always I have in my mind, and I want to work on that. So I think yeah, mine is again is like some of them are just like instant reaction, and it's like I get inspired what things is that's happening around me, and some of them are like more like theme based, and the issues and subjects that I care about, and then I decide to how to put them with my visual language. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really interesting. Yeah, I always find it interesting how artists kind of like come up with ideas and how they actually sort of work. So I think everyone goes about it in a really different way. Um, so one of the things that I've really enjoyed about working on this exhibition is exploring the kind of connections between um, the artworks in the collection and kind of considering how the different pieces sort of interact with each other. Um, Looking at the view from here kind of as a whole, how do you feel your pieces sort of sit within the exhibition?
I think it's a nice dialogue between all the works. So, like my work has been installed next to another work that has an image of soldier as well, and I think if I want to look at it in this collection, it may look even different when I was creating from when I was creating that. So if I look at the work by itself, so it's a kind of I may feel a bit of kind of isolation, but now when you put it in a different setting, so in Leighton House, I think it became even more related to the theme I wanted to show in my work. So I can see that dialogue, and also because of the history behind the place. I feel it's nice to have a conversation between a contemporary image that I have used in my work and also the historical venue of the exhibition. So I really liked the dialogue between them. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, I think your piece works nicely there. It's kind of funny. It's always when you're hanging it, you just sort of discover these connections that you weren't noticing beforehand, and it always takes quite a lot of shuffling, but you sort of get there in the end in an order that kind of makes sense. So I'm glad you feel the same.
Yeah, especially I really like the background you actually decided for the walls, the color you have decided. For my work is really nice. It's a nice actually. It helped it to kind of pop out, and even kind of I think it's a kind of complementary colors as well, using blue and also orange. So it's kind of, they're completing each other. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Any other thoughts?
Yes, so for me, I echo that. So the view from here brings together diverse contemporary voices, and it reflects on heritage, memory, and identity. I think in that landscape as well, my work operates as a kind of interruption through its use of confrontation to language, value, and the conditions under which we recognize humanity. With my work, I feel like it asks the viewer to slow down, to reflect on the assumptions that they bring within that space. Assumptions such as who is speaking, who is being seen, and on what terms. And that kind of questioning doesn't illustrate a single narrative. It opens a space for inquiry. And in that sense, it sits also in dialogue with other artworks in that space. And it's quite interesting to see this after you see it in the exhibition, as beforehand you see it in isolated condition.
Yeah, I think it works really nicely in the space. And as you say, it kind of asks questions, which connects it really well with the other pieces in the exhibition. I really like that as an idea. Thank you.
So I think I'm going to echo Maliha and Amr as well, because I think this is really nice to see all the pieces together, because we share something. This is a shared identity with all the artists, coming from similar region, because we have similar cultural identities, and it's nice to see how each artist is approaching it differently. But at the end, it's kind of about identity, memory, and how we see, the world outside, and how we are imagining the world outside, and how we want it to be. So I think that's really great to see all of them in relationship to each other. And it's when you go into the exhibition, I think you can stand in front of each piece and have a look at it, but when you move on to the next one, maybe you still have a memory of what you saw. So I think it's like it looks really nice together as a collective things, coming, maybe make more sense of the region, the people of the region, and what they want to convey in a contemporary voice.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely got the impression when working on the exhibition with Gillian that was something that she'd been very keen to achieve with the collection. So I'm sure she'd be very, very happy to hear that you felt that way. When working on the exhibition and in exploring the Oriental Museum's collection, there seemed to be a kind of common theme in the works, as well as digital, which we've talked about already, this idea of sort of and we've talked about this before, it's hard to find a term to exactly describe it, but this idea of sort of visual layering, which I think each of you explore in your artworks using very different techniques. Could you talk a little bit about that, and also about your sort of process for creating the pieces?
For me, layering is quite central to my process. So I use photograph as the first layer, and then I kind of, when I use collage, so I try to transfer them over each other. So it's kind of overlapping, but because I use the technique that is called kind of acrylic gel medium transfer, so you can still see the other layers behind it. So it's a kind of lots of layer overlapping each other, but you can still see the other layers. So it's a bit different from collage. So it's collage at the same time, it cannot be collage. So it's kind of, but still it's a collective things of different story that I'm actually adding on different image. Because I always wanted to add narration to my work. So being a kind of having a story is part of my work. I like to have to tell a story through my artwork. So that's why I usually use a different layers. So each of these layers can have a different story, but when you put them together, it's just creating something that can tell you a totally different concept from the beginning. So it's quite essential for me to have that as a kind of the main process of creating the artwork. And even when I use like a found object in my work, I try to cover the surface of them with images, with photographs. So I print them and then I transfer them over the surface. So during my recent installation, I had a installation back in I think it was in May, and it was a kind of I wanted to create a kind of domestic scene of a bedroom with using like a kind of a table lamp, and I tried to transfer everything over the lamp, the kind of sorry, this is my son here. So I was kind of distracted. Yeah, so it's quite essential for me, yeah, having different layers of image in my work, and especially using Persian miniature in my work, that is quite I found it quite rich, and I found it a really kind of adding a nice another story again to the work that can also historical concept in it.
And I guess that links kind of quite nicely with your research process, this idea that you find something and then you develop ideas from that, and you kind of build from this initial image or collection of images that you've discovered.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyone else want to chime in?
Yep, from a technical perspective, the work is a photo of myself with labels taped on my body. But the layering here as well is not just visual, it's also ethical and linguistic. The repetition of "I'm human" across languages reflects how meaning shifts depending on the context, power, and the audience. At the same time, the work comes from a very personal position. As a Yemeni man, I wanted to find ways to speak universally and assert how humanity is something that is shared rather than negotiated. And also to question why that universality often breaks down in real life. And the process with this photo is intentionally restrained. I avoid using excess imagery so that the language and the presence carry the weight.
I think you definitely feel that in the piece, and the fact that the different pieces of text kind of obscure the image of you. I think it adds a kind of ambiguity to the piece, and it sort of encourages you as a viewer to kind of try and unpick it, because there's something that's being sort of hidden by these other layers. And yeah, it makes it, I think, a really reflective piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think for me, because I work digitally, the layers are not as obvious as others, and the process maybe is not as complicated as others, but I think the layers of thinking is happening conceptually back in my mind before putting there on my iPad most of the time. So I think for me is I try to use the intersection of symbolism and my lived experience, and I want to just to share the part of my identity that I care about, and the things out there, I mean the issues and the subjects that I care about, like again, like identity, migration, women's rights, and women empowerment. So I think but for example, for this artwork in the exhibition, I used Freedom Tower as a symbol of freedom, and again, it's a really well-known landmark in Tehran, which it reminds quickly, instantly of Iran, if you know it, and if you don't know anything about Iran and what's happening, you can see the solidarity between women. And I think so the first layer, if you know nothing about what's happening in Iran or anything, you would understand that this work is about solidarity. But if you have a bit of background knowledge, you understand that it is about Iran. And if you know the time that it was created, you know that it's related to women, life, freedom. And another layer, if you can read Farsi, you can read that it's written Zan Zendegi Azadi, which means woman, life, freedom. So I think, yeah, this is kind of like layers that is happening over there. So yeah, I think my work maybe at the first, it's not, you see like a flat image, but there are some layers that happening maybe just underneath.
Yeah, I think your work is really clever in the way that it combines different kind of visual imagery and cues, but you bring together lots of different elements, but in such a graphic kind of strong way. Um, and yeah, as you say, kind of add these different layers of meaning through these reference points that people will kind of understand the more they engage with the artwork. So yeah, we were really struggling to come up with a term for that, but sort of layering, I think, kind of has just about worked there. So thank you all.
I'm hoping I've got time for one last question before we open it up to the audience. I know time is ticking on. So, but just something that's been referenced a couple of times, and I wonder if people could expand on it, but both at the Oriental Museum and at Leighton House, your works have obviously been displayed within the context of a historic collection. And I just wondered if any of you had any further thoughts on how your works relate to that being within that sort of historic building, a historic collection context.
I think it's quite nice because the theme of the exhibition is mainly collage, and Leighton House, I see Leighton House as a collage of different objects, different cultures, history. So I think it's quite related. It might be like a bit because when I went to see the show and after I came out from the room that was the exhibition was, when I went to the room next door, it was quite different setting because that was the Leighton studio, totally Western architecture. But I think it has the same kind of paradox. At the same time, it has it could be connected because when you go downstairs, you have that Arab hall with all the Middle Eastern objects. And in the exhibition, you can see lots of elements and motifs from Middle East. So I feel it's a really, really nice conversation between contemporary images and also the history of the building, and also even if you look at it as a kind of image, it's a nice collage of different layers of memory and history and concept.
Yeah, I think that for us that really captured it, and it's so different. I don't think any of you probably made it up to Durham to see it, but it looks so different in Leighton House to the way it did in Durham. So yeah, and those layers, as you come back to layers, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, I think my observation on this, it creates a very interesting dialogue. I think showing it also within historic collection, the significance of it is because many such collections were formed within systems of classification and distance, where cultures were often encountered as object of studies rather than a subject of a speaking subject. And our work and my work enters that space from a lived contemporary position. It doesn't approach it in an aesthetical way. For example, for my piece, it questions how humanity is framed and who is granted a voice. I think in that context, it creates this interesting dialogue between historical representation and lived experience, between the objects themselves and the speaking subjects that are current.
Yeah, I think that was really important for us as a university in trying to get students to about those topics, when we're kind of challenging them to look at some of the histories and what they're trying to say. So yeah, it was a really powerful way of getting that conversation going.
Oh yeah, and I want to again. I want to echo what Anne was saying because I think it's really I love this contrast because what we see, for example, in Leighton House or even in Oriental Museum is like this kind of Victorian idea of Oriental aesthetics versus what we can see in the exhibition is like our lived realities and it's like our point of view. So I think thank you so much for the curators and the Durham University and Oriental Museum and Leighton House, just to give us this space because I think in the contemporary world that we are living, it is really nice, just to and we can say what we want to say. So it's really nice, just to hear from us, like a lived experience of us. So I think it's a contrast there, but I think it's beautiful and it's necessary. So I think it's great, just to be in that historic studio of an like Western artist, but have these Eastern ideas coming too. So it's like this interplay. I think is really amazing and beautiful.
Oh, it's very kind of you to say. I think with Jill, I mean, it's such a shame, as I say, that Jill isn't here today, but one of the reasons she called the exhibition Voices when it was on in Durham is the conversations that she had with you all and how it had struck her so much, all of the different voices that came through and how we wanted to give space for all of those voices. So yeah, I think the pleasure and honor is ours.
Brilliant. Well, we've only got a few minutes left, but does anyone have any questions? If you do, please put them in the chat and we will ask some of them. Just in the meantime, a quick reminder that the exhibition is still on. It's on till the 1st of March. So if you haven't been to see it, please do. I hope this has been a nice introduction. So we've got a question here from Katie, which is, do you feel a sense of responsibility or perhaps pressure, whether internal or external, to address social injustice in your work? And how has that sense of responsibility shaped the choices you make as an artist in terms of subject matter, form, or even what you choose not to show? Thank you, Katie.
Sometimes I want to actually show the emotion I have towards the thing that is happening, especially in my country, in my work. That is kind of my response or my reaction to the thing. So I think it's not a necessary thing for an artist. So because some artists may not do that, I may not do it sometimes, but sometimes I want to do it. So I think this world needs artists to show that in their work. I know it shouldn't be a kind of obligation. Some people kind of expect that from artists to show all the kind of that everything happening around them in their work. So it shouldn't be an obligation. But if you I mean, it's up to the artists if they want to show that in their work. So I also show it in my work, but not always. But sometimes I may react to the thing that is happening around me, especially in my country, in my work. And I think it's a good message when you want to make the whole world aware of about something that is happening, and you can be also voice of them. So I have had some political works that even kind of shared in some other spaces to kind of raise awareness about what is happening especially in Iran. But I'm trying to not feel pressure of creating art just because I want to show that, because I'm not sure if I'm going to create a good quality of artwork if I want to do an emotional response every time. So this is actually my answer to this question.
Thank you. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to add to that?
Yes, it's a very interesting question because it's something that I felt before. And definitely there's pressure either internally or externally. But the truth is that eventually I only create art that whether the pressure was external or internal, if it only aligns with what I want to express. And I think in the end, I process those feelings, even if it's conflicting. And if it wants to come out as an expression, then I create that art. But that pressure exists, and I think it's real, not just personally. I think it's just that there's a social expectation that artists need to speak about social injustices.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, for me as well. I think I can't really call it pressure, but I will definitely call it responsibility because I think as an artist that is Iranian artist that is living in diaspora, I have this like freedom to speak about things that many artists that in Iran can't really talk about it. So I think I burden this responsibility to speak up and just to raise their voice and amplify their voice and what they want to show and want to exercise, but they can't really do inside this inside Iran. So for me, I think because most of my works have this political point of view, or sometimes even it's not political, they have like I want to just to show the social injustice that I care about, especially around women. So I think for me, most of my work, I feel this responsibility and I want to talk about. And sometimes I think, especially again, coming from Iran, in a country that is always something happening, and especially now again, that is this huge protest happening, and there was this brutal crackdown that was happening. I'm thinking I can use my art to be the voice in especially in social media and digital platforms, because many people can't really say things and they can't really express their feelings, but they feel this connection with artworks, and maybe they share the artworks instead of saying things. And sometimes I think because you need this immediate reaction, because people don't have time to read like long articles, or I think it's an advantage that I have, just to maybe grab the attention of people with my visual language. So yeah, definitely I feel the responsibility, and I always try to show it in my work. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that just leaves me to say I think we've run out of time for any more questions. Um, so I'll just say a quick thank you so much to Maliha, Roshi, and Amma, and Rachel for joining us this evening for this talk. And thank you to everyone for coming along and attending and listening. So have a lovely evening, and thank you very much.